my remote learners. I am here with our next signpost. Remember, we were working on contrast and contradictions for the last few weeks, and now we're on to the second signpost that we should be looking out for when we are doing our reading, and that is called aha moments. So here is our anchor chart for aha moments. So when we are reading and a character realizes, understands, or finally figures something out, you should stop and ask yourself, how might this change things? Now, I want to specify and make sure you really understand that this is when the character figures something out, because many times when you're reading your book, you will have an aha moment, and that is awesome. But many times you have it before the character even has it. The aha moment in a book is when the character realizes, understands, or finally figures something out. You may have it before them. That is not the aha. The actual aha moment is the character having this. And why would we even care about when characters are having these aha moments? Well, we care because if the character has figured out a problem, you probably just learned something about the conflict. And if the character learned a life lesson, then you just learned the theme. Remember, many times authors write books for a purpose. They have a reason. There is an author's purpose for every book. They don't just write books to write books. Yes, they want to make them entertaining. Yes, they want people to purchase them. And yes, they want people to read them. But within the book that they're writing, there's always a theme. There's always this is the big reason why I'm writing this book. Because the author also wants you to learn a life lesson and you to understand a theme. So a life lesson could be about learning that it's okay to be oneself, that you don't have to always try to fit yourself into being like someone else. Maybe a life lesson is to not be a bully, to understand that everybody is different and unique in their own way, and picking on somebody for having something that's different or being different is not an okay thing to be doing. Maybe a character will learn a life lesson that it is good to be independent and do things on your own. You shouldn't always be counting on somebody else to do things for you. So those are some life lessons which would point to the theme of a story. So these aha moments go very nicely with our contrast and contradictions, because sometimes you're going to see a character acting one way and then they start acting some way different. And usually when they start acting differently, that's when they might have this aha moment. Or it might be shortly after they start changing and then they're like, oh my goodness, wow, that makes sense. But the character has to have the aha moment, not the reader. Okay? So that is our next signpost. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about with an excerpt from Crash by Jerry Spinelli. This is a book that I actually have right here in my classroom. I have a lot of Jerry Spinelli books. He writes some really great literature, and it would be awesome, an awesome book if you ever want to read someday, if you ever want to read the whole book. But this is just a little piece of it, which is called an excerpt. So I want you to be paying attention to when a character realizes something and in some way that changes their actions, or it makes them change and makes them do something different, which is probably going to cause a contrast and contradiction. Okay? Many times you're going to hear some words like, suddenly, I realized, or in an instant, I saw, or maybe it came to me in a flash, or I now know, or I finally understood that. Those are some of those phrases that you really want to be looking out for, because those are those phrases where the character is having some internal dialogue, and that internal dialogue clues the reader into, oh, this character is having an aha moment. They're suddenly realizing something, or now they know something. And we need to be noticing those moments and realizing they are super important. And we need to really, really be like opening up that reader lens, that reader brain of ours to really be paying attention and focusing on that. And remember, the question we're going to ask ourselves when we see those things are, how might this change things? How might this change things? This aha moment will always change things. We just want to know how. So I'm going to share a text with you now. Again, it's from Jerry Spinelli. It's called Crash. And it's about this kid. He's in middle school. And he has the nickname Crash. And he bullies another kid. The kid that he bullies is named Penn Webb. And Crash often calls him by his last name. So he often calls him Webb. And in this first scene I'm going to read to you, it's from the very beginning of the story. It's actually from like page 2, like super early on in the story, when the main character, Crash, is outside and sees Penn walking down the sidewalk. Okay, so we have that mindset, that background knowledge in our mind that this kid, Crash, is the bully. And he bullies this kid that he calls Webb. His name is Penn Webb, the one he bullies. It was a sunny summer day. I was in the front yard digging a hole with my little red shovel. I heard something like whistling. I looked up. It was whistling. It was coming from a funny-looking, dorky little runt walking up the sidewalk. Only, he wasn't just walking regular. He was walking like he owned the place. Both of his hands were in his pockets, and he was sort of swaying la-dee-da with each step. Strolling. He was strolling and gawking, meaning he was walking slowly and looking at all the houses. Strolling and gawking at the houses and whistling a happy little dorky tune like some Sneezy or Snoozy or whatever their names are. And he wore a button, a big one, and it covered about half of his chest, which wasn't that hard since his chest was so scrawny. Scrawny means really skinny. So here he comes strolling and whistling and gawking and buttoning and dorking up the sidewalk. Onto my sidewalk, my property. And all of a sudden I knew what I had to do. Like there was a big announcement coming down from the sky. Don't let him pass. Now I'm going to stop here for a second because guess what words I noticed, or guess what phrase I just noticed? I just noticed the phrase, all of a sudden, I knew what I had to do. Right? I knew what I had to do. And he even emphasized it even more by saying there was a big announcement coming down from the sky, like hello, almost like flashing lights and flashing letters. Don't let him pass. Don't let him go by you. So right now this is giving me a little bit of insight and something that gives me some knowledge that something's going to change, something's going to happen. And then Spinelli tells me what Crash has realized, that he can't let the kid pass. So remember, when I see a character having an aha moment, what's that question I need to ask myself? How might this change things? Dun, dun, dun. Right, he just had this aha moment. Happened so soon in the story, it's crazy. Usually you would think it would come later. Sometimes it can come early. So I'm thinking that, or I can make a good guess about what he's going to next. I think what he's going to do next is he's going to stand in this kid's way, or he's going to confront him, right? He's going to get in front of this kid that he's referred to as this funny, dorky looking little runt. And I think he's going to make him stop. Now that I know that background knowledge that he's a bully, I think he might do something to try to tease him or pick on him or maybe humiliate him, right? Make him feel less than what he is, make fun of him. So I'm going to have to keep reading to see if my thought is correct. Because when authors show us these aha moments, they are really telling you, hey, reader, you better pay attention to this. So I am going to get into this next section. So that was one scene. Now I'm going to go to a completely different scene. I'm not even continuing on with this same part that we just left off on. So in the next section, in this next section, we're going to find that Crash and Penn are about to compete against each other in a school race. Webb's parents and his great-grandfather, Henry Wilhide Webb III, have come to watch Penn run. Crash is looking at all three of them in the stands, and he's thinking of his own grandfather, Scooter. And until now, Crash has continued to bully Penn. He's bullied him a lot up until this point in the book. So I'm going to read a little bit more, and I want to see if you can notice the aha moment that Crash has in this small section. Remember, they're competing in a race. The stands were empty. A school bus moved in the distance beyond the football goalpost. Under the crossbar and between the uprights, like in a framed picture, stood three people. For once, Webb's parents didn't look so old, not compared to the man standing between them. He was shorter than them and real skinny, like the prairie winds were eroding him away, but he was standing straight and by himself. No cane, no walker, just his two legs. 93 years old. Maybe it was the Missouri River mud. That thought came to me. They would have liked each other, Scooter and Henry Wilhide Webb III. Two storytellers, both from the great flat open spaces. One in a prairie of grass, one of water. Both came to watch when no one else was there. So, did you hear that aha? Did you hear it? The thought came to me. Right? He just had an aha. He saw Webb's parents and Webb's grandfather standing there waiting for him. And he started having this thought about his own grandfather. And how he was thinking that his own grandfather would probably really like Webb's grandfather. So he's having this internal conversation or this internal dialogue with himself. So the thought came to me. I knew by hearing that, Crash had just figured something out. And that he had an aha moment. So this kind of gave us some insight into Crash and his background just a little bit. Crash, so we have to ask ourselves the question, how might this change things? So I'm thinking that maybe, how might the realization that Crash's grandfather would probably get along with Webb's grandfather, how's that going to change Crash's mind about Webb? Do we think that maybe he thinks that because they would like each other that maybe Crash and Webb should be friends? Maybe Webb isn't such a bad kid after all because Crash knows that his grandfather probably would have liked Webb's grandfather? That's what I'm almost thinking about. I'm thinking that if their grandfathers probably would have liked each other, then maybe Crash and Webb could find some common ground to like one another, and Crash shouldn't bully him so much anymore. Maybe Crash could start to be friendly with Webb. Or Penn. Sorry, I said the wrong name. Penn Webb. Interesting. So now we're going to come to another part of the story. This is where I'm going to keep going where we left off. Why exactly was he here? Did he know about me? Did he know his great-grandson could not win the race off and so would not run in the Penn relays? I wondered if Webb felt safe in his grandfather's bed. The cinder track crunched under my feet. There were 5 of us in the race. Me, Webb, and 2 other 7th graders, and a 6th grader. The coach put us in lanes. Me and Webb were side by side. Again, he hadn't said a word to me all day. We milled around behind the starting blocks, nervous, shaking out our arms and legs, everything as quiet as if the coach had already said ready. The other team members, jumpers, throwers, distance runners, had all stopped their practicing to watch. A single hawk, its wingtips spread like black fingers, kited over the school, and suddenly I saw something, a gift. A gift for a great-grandfather. A gift for a great-grandfather from North Dakota. Maybe for all great-grandfathers, but the thing was, only one person could give this gift. And it wasn't the great-grandson. Not on his fastest day alive. It was me. I hated it being me. I tried not to see, but everywhere I looked, there it was. The gift. So this one might be a little bit tricky, but let's look at this paragraph again and see if you can hear the words that kind of gave the aha away. The other team members, jumpers, throwers, distance runners, had all stopped their practicing to watch. A single hawk, its wingtips spread like black fingers, kited over the school, and suddenly I saw something. A gift. And suddenly I saw something. A gift. Do you think it's the hawk that he saw? No, I think he just had a realization. I think he just had an aha moment. Maybe the gift he wants to give, maybe he wants to give a gift to the great-grandfather. Maybe he wants to give a gift to him of letting the grandson win. What do you think? I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that he just realized that he's the one that could give this gift to Penn Webb's grandfather. He's the one that could give that gift to him. Let's see. Let's pick up where we left off. "Let's go, boys," said the coach. A voice closer to me said, "Good luck." It was Webb, sticking out his dorky little hand, smiling that old dorky little smile of his. No button. I shook his hand, and it occurred to me that because he was always eating my dust, the dumb fish cake had never won a real race and probably didn't know how. And now there wasn't time. "Don't forget to lean," I told him. His face went blank. The coach called, "Ready." I got down, feet in the blocks, right knee on the track, thumb and forefinger on the chalk, eyes straight down. And then, right then, for the first time in my life, I didn't know if I even wanted to win. "Set. Knee up, rear up, eyes up." The coach says the most important thing here is to focus your mind. You are a coiled steel spring, ready to dart out at the sound of the gun. So what comes into my head? Ollie, the one-armed octopus. He didn't disappear till the gun went off. I was behind. Not only Webb, but everybody. No problem. Within 10 strides, I picked up 3 of them. That left Webb. He was farther ahead of me than usual, but that was because of my rotten start. At the halfway mark where I usually passed him, he was still ahead, and I still didn't know if I wanted to win. I gassed it. The gap closed. I could hear him puffing like a second set of footsteps. Cinderflecks from the feet pecked at my shins. I was still behind. The finish line was closing. I kicked in the afterburners 10 meters from the white string. We were shoulder to shoulder, breath to breath, grandson to great-grandson. And it felt new. It felt good not being behind, not being ahead, but being even. And just like that, a half a breath from the white string, I knew. There was no time to turn to him. I just barked out, "Lean!" He leaned and threw his chest out. He broke the string. He won. All right, so that's the end of that passage. I want you to think about it. I want you to think about it again. I knew. There was no time to turn to him. I knew. How might this change things? What did Crash just do? What did Crash just do? Crash just let him win, didn't he? He yelled to him, "Lean." He felt good. He felt good to be running the same pace as Webb. He felt good that he wasn't ahead of him and he wasn't behind him. They were running at the same pace. And then he told him to lean. And what is the gift that he just gave him? He gave him the gift of winning, and he gave the great-grandfather the gift of seeing the great-grandson win the race. Wow. That's a big full circle, isn't it, for Crash? At the beginning of the story, Crash wanted to pick on him, didn't want him in his space, was like, "Oh, who is this dork in my area, walking down my sidewalk, coming near me?" And now he's realizing, maybe, for the first time in my life, I didn't know if I wanted to win. He's seeing a bigger picture. He is seeing that it is okay to let someone else win when there's a bigger meaning behind it. Having that great-grandfather visiting there and getting to see him win. So I wonder now if maybe, now before Crash wanted to bully him, right? Crash didn't want him around. I'm wondering if maybe now he sees that being the bully isn't such a good thing after all. Being a bully isn't such something to be proud of. Maybe he needs to be more thoughtful of other people and to look at other people in a new way, in a new light. So I am hopeful that in the books that you read from now on, you're not only noticing your contrast and contradiction signpost, but you're also going to start noticing when the character has an aha moment. When the character realizes, understands, or finally figures something out, that you should stop and ask yourself, how might this change things? Crash finally figured something out, right? He finally figured out that he didn't want to win, that he didn't want to be a bully anymore, that he wanted to give this gift to Penweb. And what a wonderful gift that was for him and his grandfather. So I will be reading you another story on another day that we will look for more aha moments in. But I just wanted to start off your thinking with what kind of aha moments you could be finding in the books that you are reading. So just be thinking about that and just be questioning that and looking for those in the readings that you are doing as well. All right, I will see you all soon. Bye, everybody.